What's up, Ragin Nation? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching the Ragin Ronin review, Transformers 3 edition. I know it's kind of late, but I'm finally going to review this movie, Transformers Dark of the Moon. I watched the first time, and then I just felt that there was so much to take in, and just information overload. So I couldn't properly review the movie. In fact, this is my third attempt to review the movie. On the first time I tried to review it, I just thought about how I just came out of the theater going, wow, and that was crazy. And then the action sequences were amazing. But I wasn't thinking about the rest of the movie. So I decided I'm gonna go watch it again, and that way I can give you a proper assessment of the film. The first thing I want to talk about is the foundation of the movie, which is the story. The story is about a secret that is kept with regards to the space race back in the 1960s between USA and Russia. Another part of the story is about Sam is no longer with the Autobots, and he's out looking for a job, and he wants to do something that matters because he saved the world twice, and now he's just back to this really mundane life, and things are just really not going his way. He wants to do something that really matters. I find that the story with this space race is very interesting to me because it really brings it home for the audience, because when you combine a historical factual event and twist it with a science fiction or fictional event rather, it makes you really think. It makes you think about, did that really happen, or could that have happened? Or it just makes you think, okay, that was pretty clever. I like how they did that. But the thing about this story is that even though they have this foundation, which is very interesting, halfway through the movie, you kind of forget about it, and it goes back to Sam's story about mattering, because once the action starts, it's no longer about the space race. It is ultimately about a big alien invasion, and Sam has to do something that really matters, and really it's about saving the girl. You kind of get lost in all the action, and the foundation about the space race doesn't really matter anymore. But it still is a very decent story. I like the story. It's not as good as the first one, and it's by far better than the second one. It still has a very good story. Let's talk about the characters. In this one, you bring in a whole bunch of new characters, and along with the characters from the previous two films, you got Sam. He's kind of developed and he's kind of matured as a character. It's a more personal and emotional story for him, and you really see that in the second half of the film when the only thing he's thinking about is just rescuing his girl. And I think that was really good for his character. We saw a different side of him instead of just this really quirky kind of boy. Lennox and Epps are back. And what I liked about Epps and Lennox is that I found that they were more leaders in this film. They were more soldiers in the first two, but this time you really saw them as being leaders, and that's what I liked about them in this film. Rosie Huntington-Whiteley is the new love interest because Megan Fox is out. I liked her character more. She wasn't just a girl and Sam's love interest. She actually had a role with regards to the ultimate plan. Then you have Ken Jeong's character, Jerry Wang, which I found was a little bit over the top, and he didn't really need to be there. I felt this is just an unnecessary character that could have been written out. He doesn't really need to be there. He doesn't need to act all that crazy. I think that Michael Bay just saw him in The Hangover and then just felt, okay, I need to put this guy in my movie. We also got John Malkovich, who plays Sam's boss, and he also is kind of over the top as well. That's not a character I'm too crazy about. I like Patrick Dempsey, however. He played a character that you just love to hate. So that character I felt needed to be there. And then of course you got Frances McDormand's character. She played this kind of like a hard-ass CIA director, or this kind of government official. I forgot what her role really was. I liked her character. I liked that she was this kind of like a take charge female role. And of course you have the robot characters. There's a bunch of new robot characters. We're introduced to these little guys. They provide the robot comic relief. Sentinel Prime, who is a great addition to Optimus Prime. They have history together. It's good that they talked about some of their history back in Cybertron, so that kind of brought a little bit of backstory for the audience. They also brought back a classic villain, which was Shockwave. He was a bit underused. He was a bit underused because of this driller thing that he uses, which is ultimately a weapon of his, but it kind of plays a character in the film because it does more damage than Shockwave does himself, so I felt that Shockwave was kind of weak. They also brought in these characters called the Wreckers, which are supposed to be an elite Autobot team. They're really cool, and I wanted to see more of them, but in the end, you kind of feel that you wanted more out of them. They brought in a fan favorite, which is Soundwave, but once again, he's another wasted opportunity. Like, a lot more could have been done with them. Let's talk about the acting. I felt that Sam provided a really good performance in terms of having his character develop. It was a more emotional story for him, and we really got to see what it was like for him as a person who really wanted to matter. I think we got a great performance from him. Tyrese and Josh Duhamel, I felt that they also gave great performances because they were very believable as leaders of their military unit. Another thing that I'd like to point out was that we had John Malkovich in a Michael Bay film. When I thought of John Malkovich being in a Michael Bay film, I just felt that this is kind of cool because they're bringing in Cyrus the Virus from Con Air. But we didn't really get that. In fact, he didn't even need to be in the film because he didn't really add anything to it. There was just 2 scenes that he was in, and one of the scenes out of the 2 didn't even need to be there at all. John Malkovich really gave us nothing. But the big question on everybody's mind is, how is Rosie Huntington-Whiteley's acting? In my opinion, it is better than Megan Fox. I felt very awkward in a lot of her scenes just because the acting is awkward. She's just not very good. But Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, with her being a Victoria's Secret model, she's actually very comfortable in front of the camera. And she is very natural with all the different ways she is being shot. So I think she looks great in front of the camera, and she also did a very good job for someone who's never acted in her life. I think that she deserved to be in the franchise more than Megan Fox does. And of course, it's great that she's just fine as hell. But ultimately, she's a better choice than Megan Fox in terms of acting. It really has no place in a Transformers movie. Like, don't get me wrong, I laughed at all the jokes and I had a really fun time, but you just feel that, is this movie a comedy?